Sri Lanka, recently had the privilege of welcoming AIA Group Executive Director, Group Chief Executive and President, Mr. Yuan Siong. With presence in 18 markets and a history of over 100 years, AIA Group is the leading life insurer in Asia Pacific region. Mr. Lee also serves as the chairman of the Geneva Association. Welcome to Sri Lanka, Mr. Lee. It's a privilege and a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And I'd like to sort of kick off this engagement and some of the key decisions that you made to become and to get to where you are today.
Okay, thank you for your warm welcome. Second time I'm in Colombo, and I'm very happy to be visiting Colombo. Sri Lanka is a very important market for AIA, and the team is doing a great job. We're very confident of the prospects of AIA Sri Lanka in 2026. I've been in the insurance industry for more than 30 years. It's an industry that I really liked. When I started, I decided to choose an industry, a career where I really felt that what this industry is doing is important and has a purpose. It's helping people when they really need us most. Insurance is about building resilience. It's about helping people when they are facing some loss. And to me, that is something that's very meaningful. So that's why I chose insurance as a career. I was born in Singapore. So Singapore is a relatively small place.
Yes.
At that time, it's only 2.5 million people.
Okay.
So very quickly, I decided that to be in insurance, you have to go to a market where there are a lot of people who can buy insurance. So back then, I quickly moved to start working in mainland China. Now, to me, that was a big move in my career as well, because moving from a place which is very comfortable to me, a very well organized, very peaceful, well run, very comfortable environment, to China back in the 90s, where it is much more, in a way, at a developing stage. You can use chaotic to describe it. Less comfortable environment, much more foreign. So it was a big move for me, a big career decision, big step in my career as well. But I took the step to go there because I felt that, you need to believe in the long-term trends. You need to go to a place a market where, there will be a huge potential. And as a young man, I thought that it's important for me to have the courage to step out of my comfort zone. So that's the big step in my career. I stayed on working in mainland China, and I grew with the insurance industry. And from the 90s to today, I think China grew to become the second largest insurance market in the world. The Chinese economy grew, and if you go back to China, and all the big Chinese cities today, you can see that it is, vastly different, very advanced, very well developed cities, vastly different from where it was back in the 90s. But had I not taken the decision to go to China in the 90s and move out of my comfort zone, I wouldn't have been able to ride the wave of China's growth. I think that was a very big decision point in my career as well.
Good. If someone were to ask you about some of the most important attributes for impactful leadership, what would be your response? And how does those attributes create the right culture in an organization?
Well, I believe that as a leader, especially in today's world, where we are facing a lot of uncertainty, I think really three attributes of a leader is very important and stand out. The three attributes I would say courage, clarity, and humanity. Right? Courage to be ambitious, to set high goals. As a leader in today's world, you have a lot of opportunities that you can grasp. And if you've got the courage to set high goals, then it's very hard for you to motivate your team. So courage to set high goals, to be ambitious, courage, to try new ways of doing things, to innovate, to look for new models, new ways of leverage on new technologies, not resting on what has been successful in the past. So the courage to innovate, to try out new ways of doing things, the courage to persevere, because in this world, there will always be obstacles and roadblocks. But if you have decided that this is the right way and this is the right thing to do, then to have the courage to persevere and take your team along. So courage, I think, is very important. The second attribute of leadership that I feel is very, very critical and important in this changing world is, clarity. Right? Clarity of vision, clarity of strategy. Be clear to your team, what sort of outcome we should be working towards. Be clear to your team, how you're getting there. Clarity of execution, And finally, the clarity to be very clear to your team members, who's taking care of what, who's responsible for delivering which part of the plan or the strategy. So the clarity in terms of accountability, that's very important as a leader.
Yes.
And the third part is you're leading a team, and a team of humans, right? Yes. So the humanity to be focused, to be bringing your whole team along, to have the humanity to believe that it's not the success of you as the leader, but the success of the team collectively. So you have to be able to have the humanity to bring your team along. And because we are working as a team, and especially in Asia, where the team members usually come from diverse cultures, different gender, different ethnicities, to be able to demonstrate respect in your interaction, and when you're collaborating with your team members. Those are the three attributes that I think are very, very important.
Okay, excellent. Can you expand about AIA's culture and how it has sort of played a big part in driving success?
Yeah. I came to AIA in 2020 after I left China.
Okay.
But I was quite fortunate because at that time AIA was looking for a CEO, and they approached me, and I was considering my next move, and I felt that AIA was a perfect match for I would say the last leg of my career.
Yes.
I'm 60 years old now. When I joined AIA, I was 55 years old.
Okay.
So I thought this is going to be the last leg of my full-time working career.
Yes.
So I thought AIA provided the best match, and one of the most important reasons why I believe in AIA chose me,
Yes.
I'm very grateful for that, is that the purpose of the company resonated very well with me. I believe in the AIA culture, and I would describe the AIA culture in this way. There are four parts to it. One is the purpose, which is sitting right at the top of the culture. Yes. Of the driving the culture of the organization. Our purpose is to help people live healthier, longer, better lives. Right? It's not about making money. It's about helping people live healthier, longer, better lives. It's very aligned with our industry, providing life and health insurance solutions to our customers. But beyond the solutions itself, the purpose behind it is to help people live healthier, longer, better lives. Yeah. I think that resonated very well with me. Then at the next level is really our operating philosophy, and our operating philosophy is very simple. Okay. It is doing the right thing in the right way with the right people, and the right results will come. Okay. Doing the right thing in the right way with the right people, and right results will come. It sounds very simple, but we've been around since 1919. We've been through 2 world wars, numerous financial crises. Yes. So to be able over such a long period of time to continue to insist on doing the right thing in the right way with the right people, and believing that the right results will then come, I think that is actually quite difficult and quite challenging as well. And the third part of our culture is really, the leadership essentials. What do we look for in our leaders? And it is exactly what I described just now: courage, clarity, and humanity. And finally, the fourth part is our operating model. We operate in 18 markets, and each market is very different in terms of its stage of development. The contextual environment is very different. The regulations are different. So we believe that it's important that our operating model is built based on empowerment.
Okay.
We empower our local leadership to run the business and run the company in a way that is best suited to the local market conditions. We empower people like Shaturi, who's our CEO in Sri Lanka,
Yes.
to lead her team to to make the decisions that matter for her team for the Sri Lankan market. So an empowerment model whereby we empower our leaders, empower our employees to do the right thing in the right way.
Excellent. Given your 30-year plus career and experience, how do you perceive the evolution of the insurance industry in Asia? And where do you see the challenges and the opportunities in terms of life and health insurance?
I think we operate predominantly in Asia.
Yes.
We operate in 18 markets across Asia. I think Asia is the right place to be for AIA. We have our history. We grew out of mainland Shanghai in 1919, and we have expanded then since to 18 markets across Asia.
Yes.
Right. So I believe that Asia is the best region for our industry. The structural drivers of growth for the life and health insurance industry are such that they allow a company like AIA to be able to grow sustainably in a high quality manner for the very, very long term. The attractiveness of the market is really in the large protection gap that we see across the region, the growing levels of wealth, the increased consumers' focus on life, health and wellness. The pervasiveness of new technologies and the use of new technologies. And since COVID and since the occurrence of various financial crises happening globally and regionally,
Yes.
we see that consumers have a preference to interact and to buy their products and obtain their solutions from trusted brands and strong and powerful and trusted brands, and AIA is definitely one of them. So it is a very, very attractive market, and we will continue to be focused on in Asia. Clearly, there will be changing conditions that will make the environment a bit more uncertain for businesses across Asia, including geopolitics, including climate change, including the increasing use of artificial intelligence and new technologies, and also the shifting demographics in the region. This will create opportunities and create challenges for companies like AIA in Asia.
Okay, excellent. Over the next 10 years or so, where do you see the best potential for AIA and overall insurance industry?
I think the best potential for AIA is to remain focused in our core life and health insurance business.
Okay.
This region provides us, as I said before, ample room for profitable growth for a very, very long period of time. Our services, our products, and the demand for our services and products continue to be very, very strong, driven by the very powerful structural drivers of growth that I described just now. And we operate in a region where the public policy, but the regulators, the governments are supportive of the growth of the life and health insurance industry.
True.
The objectives of the insurance industry, which is to build societal resilience, is very aligned with public policy objectives of governments. So we've seen in many of our markets, the governments coming out fully in support of the life and health insurance industry. We've seen policy incentives, introduced by governments to encourage consumers to purchase insurance. We've seen in markets like, for example, in mainland China, where tax incentives are given to individuals to buy health insurance,
Okay.
to buy annuity products for their retirement. Uh, Nearby, you have in India where they have incentives for people to save into their health fund.
Yes.
People, when they really need to get medical help, they can access these health funds to finance the medical treatments that they will need at an older age. Yeah. So I think the best opportunity for a company like AIA is continue to be very focused on your core life and health insurance business. The other opportunities really lie in what new technologies, new innovations like artificial Gen AI. I think I'm very excited about the transformational potential of Gen AI. I believe that Gen AI will be able to help us transform many parts of our business and transform the way we process our new business, we process our claims, we service our customers, transform the way we interact with our customers, transform the way we actually design products. So for Gen AI and new technologies to create new profit pools, new opportunities, new market segments, to be able to service new previously unserviced customer segments in our markets. I think changing demographics in certain markets is also creating huge opportunity for AIA. In some of our markets, we are seeing a rapidly aging society.
Yes.
And in the past, the relatively senior customers segments have been, not been the focus areas for the insurance industry. I think this will, the changing demographics will open up a lot of opportunities for companies to innovate and design new solutions and new products that's relevant to the needs of elderly population.
A related question, with insurance are primarily dominated by agency channels, and how do you see that role emerging and high potential channels such as bank assurance?
I think, in my view, insurance, because it relates to the long-term planning and and health in terms of health and retirement needs of consumers, it is something that is more complex than choosing which model of laptop you're gonna buy, which TV you want to buy, what sort of drink you want to stock up in your refrigerator. So when buying your long-term life and health insurance policy, many consumers, they would like to seek the assurance from a trusted advisor. So I do believe that even in the even with the advent of new technology, face-to-face selling of life and health insurance products, whereby the customers sit in front of a professional advisor to explain the product and solution that is relevant and that will meet the needs of the customer. This will continue to be the way insurance will be sold in the future. And we know that people's circumstances change, right? The insurance that you have bought 5 years ago may not be sufficient for you in your current situation. So there is a need for the advisor to come back regularly to review the insurance policy, the insurance plan with the consumer, and to design, and augment the original solution with additional coverages and additional benefits. So this face-to-face selling is going to be continue to be the way,
Okay.
right? Whether it's a face-to-face selling by a professional insurance agent
Yes.
of the insurance company, or whether it's done by the insurance representative in a bank, within a bank insurance setting, I think these are similar.
Okay.
These are similar.
Right.
Whether it's in insurance as an individual insurance agent,
Yes.
or whether it's a sales representative, professional sales representative
In the bank.
in the bank, right? The important thing is the advisor has to be professional, has to look after the interests of the customers, and has to be somebody who's serving the customer for a very long term through different life stages. AIA Sri Lanka is very focused on building our what we call our premier agency channel. We believe we are the best in building premier agency channel in Sri Lanka and in the region, right? AIA Sri Lanka is number one in terms of $1 million round table members.
Yes.
$1 million round table membership is the creme de la creme of the insurance agency,
Yes.
right? So we are the best in building this kind of agency force. At the same time, we have built very strong strategic partnerships with major banks in Sri Lanka, and these relationships have helped us to be able to assess the customers of these banks.
Yes. Related, you mentioned about AI previously. How can AI be sort of harnessed to improve customer satisfaction from customer perspective and also operation efficiency from an insurer perspective? How can be AI leveraged?
Yeah, I think AI will help our advisors, dramatically improve the productivity and efficiency of the way they service and assess their customers.
Right.
So through AI, you will be able to, better understand the needs of your customers. Through AI, you will be able to assess, customer segments that you may not have been aware that you can potentially service, right? In terms of using AI, we can, make the operational processes of insurance companies much more streamlined and efficient, right? At AIA, we have been leveraging on AI to improve our underwriting process, to improve our claims adjudication process, and I think there remains to be huge room for further productivity improvements, whether it's with the sales force or with the in terms of improving the efficiency of our operations processes, right? With AI also, we'll be able to better understand when is the right time, what's the right setting to engage with and interact with our customers and to better understand their needs. So, huge opportunity.
Good. Like back to sort of move to Sri Lankan context. This is your second visit to Sri Lanka.
Yep.
The first one being way back in
2023.
2023. What have been your thoughts? Sort of, I know you're on a short trip, but what have been initial assessment and how do you rate the business in AI business in Sri Lanka?
I think we are very proud of what the team has achieved over the last 5 years in Sri Lanka. Over the last 3 years, AIA Sri Lanka has delivered compound annual growth rate of more than 35%. Very, in other words, doubling the business in a period of 3 years. I think AIA Sri Lanka is one of the most trusted and most loved brands, insurance brands in the Sri Lankan market. Having gone through several crises over these past 5 years, AIA Sri Lanka has come out of each crisis even stronger than going into the crisis.
Yes.
The most recent was the storms last year.
Yes.
But coming out of the storm, AIA Sri Lanka recovered very, very quickly to deliver a very strong closing in December of 2025.
Yes.
And they are on course to delivering a very strong start to 2026. I have huge confidence in our team here, and I know that the Insurance Regulatory Commission has an objective of doubling the insurance market in the next 5 years.
Yes.
AIA Sri Lanka, we want to be, contributing towards the Insurance Regulatory Commission to achieving their target.
From a country perspective, what have you seen between the previous visit and the current?
People smiling more, a lot more confidence, and I think really much greater confidence in the future. Sri Lanka is a country that I really enjoy coming to. I really like, and I have great hopes that Sri Lanka will, the insurance market and the country as a whole will grow from strength to strength.
Good. You spoke about penetration and some of the efforts by the regulators and the industry as a whole. What can Sri Lanka learn from the success of Asian countries in terms of enhancing insurance, promoting more adoption?
I think that the long-term prospects for the insurance market in Sri Lanka are very attractive. I believe the same structural drivers of growth that support the growth of the insurance industry in many of the Asian markets that we operate in, they are also here in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
I think that it is important that the insurance industry operates in a way that supports high quality growth, that's sustainable, that's built on exceeding customer expectations, that's built on high quality sales processes, that's built on insurance companies delivering on their promises to their customers, right? And building a strong trust in the insurance industry. I think that's the first thing, right? The insurance industry, we have to, be, not focus on short-term results, but on long-term high-quality growth. And you can only have high-quality growth if you are treating your customers fairly, and if you are delivering on what you promised to your customers. I think that's the first thing. That's what the insurance industry has to do. I think, like I said, the objectives of the insurance industry is very aligned with public policy objectives, right? Building society resilience. So, I would really hope that the Sri Lankan government would, adopt initiatives to promote greater awareness of the importance of insurance amongst the public. I would hope that the Sri Lankan government can consider taking even one step further to roll out policy initiatives to encourage the public to buy insurance, like we see in some of the other Asian neighbors. Yeah.
Yes. Compared to the other players in the industry, AI has a strong purpose. From your perspective, how has that purpose-led culture ethos sort of helped for one, how important is it for a life insurance company, and how it has delivered value to both company and your stakeholders?
Well, it is, as I said, one of the main reasons why I chose to come to AIA, because I was attracted by the purpose of AIA, which is to help people live healthier, longer, better lives. I interact with a lot of our employees, whether it's new employees or people who have been with AIA for decades, and it is the purpose of the company is something that really resonates at all levels of the company, whether it's staff or agents, and even with our bank, with our partners, right? So it is really, what motivates us to really get into the office, what motivates us to, spring into action when there's a crisis out there, and when there's a disaster, or when there's a storm, to spring into action so that we are right there when our customers need us to be.
Good. As the leader in life insurance in the region, what kind of commitment is there from AIA for the Asia Pacific going forward, and also to Sri Lanka?
Yeah, we have been around in Asia for more than 100 years, right? We have operated, in a very highly professional. We have, we are driven by our purpose of helping people live healthier, longer, better lives. We believe in the opportunities that the region offers for AIA, and we will continue to invest to build long-term sustainable businesses in the markets that we operate in, including Sri Lanka.
Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee, for very frank and more importantly, very insightful comments, responses in terms of some of the personal questions as well as industry issues and regional issues, as well as some of the challenges and opportunities in Sri Lanka as well. It has been a pleasure to have this discussion with Mr. Lee, and I'm sure that there are a lot of insights, useful industry insights, as well as more articulation of AIA's own efforts in the region as well as in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
Thank you.